What's going on? My name is Jack Lane. Welcome back to a brand new video here at the channel. This weekend on July 18th on Thursday, a movie snuck up on us and no one's talking about it. And I don't understand why, but I thought I'd just do my review here. And that is, of course, from My Spy, The Eternal City, the sequel to My Spy that released in 2020. And, of course, it stars Dave Bautista as the lovable JJ, and then his stepdaughter Chloe Coleman, who plays Sophie Newton in the movie. Now, this film does something very, very good. Um, I'm I'm a huge fan of what they did with the first film. It the first film released during just before COVID hit, and it pulled in 10.5 million, right? And it was a very, I'd say, lukewarm film. It did alright on Rotten Tomatoes. It got a 48%. This film's being bashed with a cane on Rotten Tomatoes at 15%, but I'll argue that. There's a lot of things this film does right. And one of them being the dynamic between JJ and Sophie. The dynamic in the first one is best friends. He's protecting her, and she looks up to him and goes, "Oh, I really want to be like this man." In this one, they sort of pull away from it a little bit. They sort of set her on her own path. And unlike the first film, where I'd say the mission was the main plot, and their story was a side plot or a running along main plot themes, this one really isn't. This one is the mission. The threat is it. The threat doesn't need to be there, essentially. The main focus of this film is their dynamic and where these two characters have been for the last 4 years, what their journey's taken them on. And I'd honestly say this film, after watching it, I'm so happy that this film released. My Spy 2, I've wanted since watching the first My Spy back in 2020. And I sit there and I watched that film and I thought this has a lot of franchise potential with the two actors, because they just have this bond that's unlike any in cinema. Now, My Spy, The Eternal City, it seems like they're doing a franchise thing, where My Spy's the franchise, but each thing's going to be called a different movie, a bit like Mission Impossible. So you can eventually change up the characters. Because My Spy isn't JJ, it's just... But for the time being, it is. What this film does very well is it establishes Sophie, the character of Sophie, very well. It establishes her as this character who wants her independence, who wants to get away from JJ a little bit. She rebels a lot in this film. However, he keeps reminding her, "You wanted to be a spy. You asked me to train you. I'm going to stay the course, even if you're not going to." And he keeps on doing that thing where she is going to keep doing this until death comes for him. And the movie plays out. I think like the first 40 minutes plays out, and it's just building blocks on their relationship. Then we get to the actual mission of the movie, and the movie just takes off from there. I think it's about the hour mark where one of Sophie's friends from school was kidnapped, and that's the starting of the whole incident. And the reason he's kidnapped is because his father, David Kim, in the movie, he's head of the CIA, and they need him to get to this nuclear weapons, or these 100 bombs, and that's the mission. Retrieve the son. And the movie does it so well. The movie sets that part up so well. Even though the mission, I would say the mission's the subplot. I can understand why there's people that don't like this film. I can understand it, because I feel like it's been misinterpreted. Of course, this film is a direct-to-streaming movie. I'm normally not a big fan of them, but for this one, I think it just works. Um, it's made by MGM, who are now, of course, partnered with Amazon. So it just works here quite a bit. Would it be a good cinema film? I think it would do okay in cinema. I think it'd do about 5 to 10 million, like the first one did. Of course, what we have to look at for movies is, will it make money? Well, given the fact that, as far as I'm aware, this one doesn't actually. As far as I'm aware, it's not being released in cinemas. It just, the Eternal City is just releasing on Amazon Prime, which it has, and it's doing very. I'd say it's a very good film. There's some articles that are saying, it's okay. It's not that great, but it's if you wanted a buddy cop film, this is sort of, if you wanted that buddy cop style but for spies, that's what it is, and it's the daddy-daughter spy effect film. And to be honest, if you enjoyed the first one, you're going to enjoy this one. People who go, oh, well, I don't know, it's not that good. I have to ask the question, why is it not good? Because to me, if you understand what they were trying to do, it's a fantastic film. Because what they were trying to do is they were trying to tell a story of this teenager who looked up to this guy for, let's say, 4 years. Because it's only recently that she's been rebelling. We find that out in the movie. And now, the guy who's her stepdad is kind of finding it difficult to deal with that. He's kind of finding it difficult to sit there and be like, oh, okay, so this is really happening. You are rebelling against me. And then she uses the old famous line of, you're not my dad. Which is, it just undertones, it just sets the tone for the film. He's trying to give her space, but doesn't want to give her that space. Doesn't need it. But again, the movie does the building blocks, and we see where things go. And I honestly 100% think and believe that this film is a fantastic movie. Is it as good as number one? No. But it's very close. Because they're two different films at this point. You have film number one, where it was, you had the front face of, yes, love JJ, JJ's this, JJ's that. And then you have this film where she's rebelling against JJ. And that's the whole plot point. That is the whole story. It's the rebel and then bringing her back to him, being like, okay, I was wrong. It also dives into the fact that she is looking for boyfriends and, looking for a boyfriend, and JJ's not happy with that. So the movie delves into relationships a little bit, and it focuses in more on her story as a teenager who's grown up. And the movie really pays off. The ending, the final fight, and what happens there, it all pays off 100%. The movie, it makes you think something's gonna happen, and you feel a bit crushed, and then it doesn't happen. And you're like, whoa, okay, that's kind of cool. The movie also dives into the fact that JJ gave up his operative lifestyle. He retired from active field operations from the CIA. Still works on as a data analyst, but he gave up that in the field, fighting, gunfighting and whatnot, to be able to stay alive long enough to walk Sophie down the aisle and do all these things that he wants to do. And it really hones in on the fact that he believes he's her father. And the movie pays it off really well. So, where would I put this? Where would I, out of 10, what score would I give it? I'd probably give it a solid 7.5. Reason it's not higher is because it's not going to be the first one, and the first one to me was like a 9. And this one I don't think deserves an 8. But 7.5 I think is fair enough. I think what it's getting on Rotten Tomatoes is bad. It's 15%, 35% on viewer scores. It's a free film. Check it out for yourselves. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Prime, it's there already. But this film really, it can be lost in interpretation because it is very different to the first one. It's not the same movie. It's not a carbon copy. It's completely different. Tells a whole different dynamic of the story. And I'm hoping, they go ahead and they greenlight another one. Because I feel like there's more to tell. There's more story to tell, 100%. The movie doesn't... this film doesn't wrap up their story. They have another... There's at least another story to tell, if not more. So that's where I'm sort of at with it. Yeah, like I said, 7.5 is my score. This has been my review. Sort of a quick review. But there's so much in this film. There's so much funness. And it's just about the father-daughter relationship that they have. And then, of course, when you get into the latter part of the movie, you start to spoil things. Because really the big shocking moment for me was it all translates from the very beginning of the film. And you're like, oh my God. But you can't talk about that in this review. But yeah, that's my review. And I'm very sort of happy with the movie, like I said. So, with that being said, I'll see you on the next one. And as usual, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new. Leave me a comment down below. Are you guys either going to check out the movie? Did you guys enjoy the movie if you already watched it? And if you didn't, why didn't you like it? And maybe we can have a little bit of a conversation about that, as I'd like to get to know people's thoughts on this film, as it's just released. And as always, stay cinematic.